Hi guys, do excuse the crazy hair if you do happen to see it, but I feel like I'm going kind of wild, kind of natural for the theme of this book. I don't really know. Anyway, so today I'm going to be reviewing Pax by Sarah Pennypacker. So I got this as a free kind of e-arc from NetGalley, you know, to read for review. So thank you very much, NetGalley, and the publishers of the book, of course. But of course, that doesn't alter my opinion or any kind of feedback I have about the book. They're all my own opinions. Thank you very much. In Pax, we're following a friendship between a fox and a boy called Peter. The fox is called Pax, and they have been inseparable since Peter found him, the only survivor of his dead brothers and sisters. You know, they've become the best of friends. But one day, Peter has to leave Pax, and it's kind of about their journey of figuring out where they need to be, why they need to do that, and hopefully trying to reunite at the end of it. It's a really moving one. It's a really great story. It's kind of aimed at middle grade, so it's nice that they did a theme like this with so many interwoven themes and pulled it off really nicely. So I'm just going to tell you my thoughts. This is going to be split into a spoiler and non-spoiler part. Of course, as usual, when I get to my non-spoiler part, I'll let you know. But it is going to be kind of skittish, maybe all over the place, just because I kind of add notes as I go along. So yeah, it may not make sense in order, if that makes sense, I guess. I don't know, but hopefully you enjoy what I have to say, or at least you find it interesting. So I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars, very close to a 5 stars, but just not quite, and obviously I'll explain in a bit. So initially I'd seen this kind of floating around Goodreads a little bit. I saw somebody read it but not enjoy it as much, but as soon as I found out what it was about, I was just eager to pick it up and give it a go. So I was happy that I managed to get a early version of it through NetGalley. Otherwise I would have had to wait ages, and I didn't want to do that, and it looked like such a fun story, such an emotional one. So yeah, I was really happy that I managed to get it through that. I think I was kind of drawn to it because it's such the sound of it was so heartwarming, and because it was aimed at middle grade, I thought, wow, this is either going to be amazing or it's going to be absolutely terrible. I want to know what it's about. And honestly, after reading like the first chapter, because I was so close to going to bed, I literally had to put it down because I was like, whoa, this is quite heavy already. I'm already being hit in the feels. I cannot go to sleep with that on my conscience. That's going to keep me up like all night just thinking about it, and then I'll have to read more, and I don't want to be punched in the feels any more than I already am. So yeah, it was quite emotional from the get-go. I found Pax and Peter to both be really likeable characters, and I found it super interesting to read from both their point of views, especially from Pax, being that he's, you know, not human, he's a fox. So it's really cool to see how Sarah kind of implicated the real fox gestures that they do to communicate in with more obvious sort of text for the reader to actually see and read and understand what they're saying. You know, it worked really nicely in the story. In Pax's chapters, any kind of dialogue is in like italics, so that's the obvious kind of text that we're given, so we know what's actually going on. But it's nice that she included little like physical actions and described like them doing something with scent, you know, because they use a lot of their senses to communicate, and I thought that was amazing that she provided that there. It made the story stronger because you could see that the author put in a lot of research and effort to it, so it just made me feel more respectful to her, you know. The writing was absolutely amazing, and although you can tell, like, you can see that it's aimed at a younger audience, in another like respect it feels so much more than that. The way it's written, it's so, I don't know, there's just something about it that makes me feel like anyone would enjoy it. Anyone could read it and really fall in love with the story. The writing was just next level. It was amazing, and it really captivated me, and I would be interested to see any more stories similar to this, just generally in the genre, or particularly from this author. So definitely it's really got me like stoked to check out some more stuff like this. Like the story, the characters, everything was just, it flowed really nicely, and I felt like through the text you were given kind of symbolic messages behind messages, if that made sense. Like there was always another story that the story was trying to tell through it, if that makes sense. Like it was really nice. I'm not sure younger children would pick up on everything, but as a slightly older person reading this, I really did appreciate that aspect. I'll talk a little bit more about themes more specifically in the spoiler section, so if you want to hang around for that part, if you don't mind spoilers, or if you've read this, then feel free to check out what I mean and see if you agree or disagree and what you think just in general. Anyway, despite the really well written story itself. I did have a slight issue with it. I just didn't find myself constantly picking this up, and you might notice that I say that with a lot of books that I'm reviewing that are ebooks, and that is because generally the same reason. Originally I was reading this via my phone, through the Kindle app on there, or on my computer, so it was just an awkward, uncomfortable reading experience, you know. But since then I have got myself a little tablet and I've downloaded the Kindle app on here, and it's so much easier. So it did feel a little bit better reading when I got this, but there was still something like nagging at the back of me that was kind of not making me enjoy it to its fullest. And I do think that's because, I guess it kind of is an effect because of how I was reading it, but I didn't give it the time that it needed. I could have easily have read this in 1 or 2 sittings, and I think it honestly deserved that. And because I didn't manage to do that, I felt like I broke the connection between myself and the story. So it just, every time I was getting some kind of big emotion from it, I would have to stop because of how I was reading it. So because that was happening so early on, it just left me in a little bit of a funk. It wasn't terribly so. I mean, it was, this story, it's amazing generally, so I could kind of oversee that. That's why it's got quite a high rating anyway, but I thought I'd mention that. Hopefully that's not the case any longer because I have this now to read from, so hopefully my experience with ebooks will be much better, much more comfortable, you know. But that's the thing. Thought I'd let you guys know. The characters, I guess you'd call them side characters, that Pax and Peter both meet. They're just so much more than side characters, honestly. They help to bring in a lot of the themes that I'll be talking about later, and they're just such influential characters, you know. I just thought that was really great because every character, every single character was well rounded, and it just made the story more believable because you could see a glimpse of someone's backstory, even if they were just, you know, a little bit in the story. It was nice. It was really nice to have a nice cast of believable characters that helped put so much into the story. So lastly, for the non-spoiler section, I just want to chat just a little bit about the beautiful illustrations running through this. They've got kind of like alternate Fox and like Peter, the boy, chapter headings for, you know, whoever's chapter it is, whether it's Pax's or whether it's Peter's, and I just thought it was a really nice touch. And also, as well as that, they've just got some general little illustrations to go with the, I don't know, whatever part you're reading, so that added some nice visual to it. But it was just generally a nice little thing to have in there, and I was really happy to find out that the illustrator, I think his name's John Klassen, he did the I Want My Hat Back, and it's a really charming little children's book, like a little picture book, so I was happy to see that, you know, he's getting around, he's got some other stuff. And also I read the I Want My Hat Back and I really liked it, so I was happy to see that they're the same illustrator. But yeah, I just thought I'd mention that. So overall for this section, I would totally recommend this to anybody who's into, you know, nature, relationships with animals and children, bittersweet kind of feel, lots of themes, middle grade. Anybody can read this. Great story. 4.5 out of 5 stars. Amazing. If you want to read my review, I've got one on Goodreads. My links are down below as usual in the description. So I've got like a few bits extra that I've written in there. They're not spoilers, but just a little bit more that maybe I haven't mentioned in this video, so you can check that out if you'd like to. But for now, I'm going to go into the spoilery section, so do not watch this if you do not want spoilers. So as I said, this might be a little bit all over the place just because of how I note down things, so do excuse that. Hopefully it's not too frustrating. But let's jump in and talk about the themes. There were so many themes in this, and they were all very meaningful. They kind of made me pause for moments at a time and kind of just take it in and feel like, wow, that was quite a powerful theme, you know. In a book that's aimed at a younger audience, you wouldn't expect to have so much depth to something. Well, I wouldn't expect it, at least. I mean, you know, obviously good writing's gonna have it anyway, but aimed at, just generally speaking, I know it might be a bit stereotypical, going to a younger story, I wouldn't expect the depth that we got in this one. So the first one I'd want to talk about is anxiety. I don't know if you'd class all of these as, you know, solid themes, or maybe, I don't know, just things that it's interesting to see in a book, you know, especially aimed at an audience that it is. So I felt like the anxiety issue with Peter, because it was talked about a little bit, it wasn't anything, I guess, in your face. It was mentioned a few times, so I'm going to count that as a theme. It definitely gave more of a concrete realism to his character and added in his development and just the depth of the story in general, as I said. And I also found that it helped to kind of solidify Pax's relationship with him, because there was a few times where it was mentioned how Pax could sense Peter's anxiety, and every time that happened he would kind of try and distract him, pretend to fall over, kind of make Peter play with him, or, you know, kind of nuzzle up, give him comfort. It was cute to see that. It definitely made the friendship stronger and just the whole situation of that believable. Although it isn't mentioned frequently, I'd say the bits that are mentioned is quite, I don't know, it gives quite an impact, and I feel like it's definitely one of the main spurs of the story. Peter's anxiety seems to keep telling him in a negative way that he's not where he's supposed to be and he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. And although it's terrible that this young boy is feeling that in himself, in a way it's kind of good, because it gave him the drive to go out and look for Pax. And although it was dangerous and probably, you know, not suggested amongst adults, it gave him the motivation, and it's what he felt in his core, as he liked to say. You know, it was amazing. I like that. I like the anxiety theme. It just added something, you know. It pushed him and encouraged him to what he believed to be right and loyal to himself and Pax. It was great. It gave some great morals to the story, but maybe not in such a nice way. Friendship in wild animals. This was another kind of major theme that I felt, obviously because of the friendship between Pax and Peter generally. You know, wild animal, human, not really seen too much a lot of the time. Nowadays foxes are kind of considered vermin. A lot of people do feed them, but, you know, nobody cares if one gets run over, let's be honest. It's terrible. I mean, I care, by the way. Animal lover over here. But it's just one of those things that happens too much these days, you know. Anyway, I'm getting a little bit off topic. Can you tell that I like foxes a lot? Yeah. So I feel like this theme definitely showed that there's some kindness still left in this world. And I know this was set a little bit, well, I feel like the setting was a little bit farther back in time. But it just shows that in the young, like young children, you can still, there's just such an innocence, you know. They're still impressionable, and the fact that Peter, he himself being young, I think he was 7 at the time that he found Pax, wanted to look after him. He wouldn't allow his father to say no. It just shows that determination in the youth, you know. And it sounds really weird. I'm sounding like all, youth. Friendship in wild animals definitely shows that there's still kindness in the world, and that can be seen for the majority of the time in young children. Like they're just filled with this natural innocence, aren't they? So they instantly, from what I've seen and from this book, I feel like they instantly have a connection and a kindness to nature and wildlife, and that was really well represented in this story. I feel like it was beautiful, really, to see that, and kind of magical in a sense as well. It was just nice to see in this story. Oh, a war. That's another theme. I don't know if it was World War II, but I feel like that would make sense for the way they were talking, because they were talking about previous wars, and I don't know, and I'm not too sure where exactly this was set, so I am a little bit hazy on that. But war in general was a really awesome theme, because you could see how much it destroys things. It definitely set the tone of the book and kind of suggests the expectations that people around Peter would have for him, definitely what kind of was believed in that time. It gave it more of a weighted feel, because you was always wondering what was happening around the corner, who was going to get hurt, what was going on, you know. It was alarming to have a lot of the story set in the wild, where these soldiers are setting up bombs and stuff, and obviously we're following Pax trying to look out for himself and his new friends. The war definitely added something to it. I just want to quickly mention that wholeness that Vola was talking about. Is it Vola? I'm not too sure. Explained it really well, but obviously Peter had that kind of sense anyway, because he explained it to her about how he felt, and it's like two but not two, I think is how she explained it, and that was just amazing. A really nice word. I don't think I've ever experienced that, but it added kind of a magic to the story. Now I might be going a bit too into it now, but I feel like there was a hint of child abuse, not necessarily like continuous beating or anything, but a slap here, a punch there to just show authority. I think that was a big thing back in World War II times. Like, it was normal to kind of just, you know, slap your child to make them be quiet, or, you know, tell them who's boss, and that was here. So I'm not sure if that's, I mean, child abuse is child abuse, whether it's in, I don't know, this century or the next, you know. but I felt like it was hinted at regardless of what sense it was used in. It was hinted at, and I want to talk about it a little bit. It's clear throughout the story that Peter's dad has some sort of anger build up. The way he talks to Peter, the way he clenches his fists when he feels like Peter's going to defy him, the suggestions that Peter's been hit, you know, and Pax has had to go in and kind of sort of either hide, or at the very beginning he's gone in and bit Peter's dad to try and protect his boy. It's hinted that he has anger and that he may have lashed out at Peter numerous amounts of times. It kind of, the book showed how Peter coped with that and how he was trying to hide his own anger, because he was easily hot-tempered as well, but he kept saying he didn't want to be like his dad. He doesn't get angry, he was flashed back into the moment because his mother died, which is another big theme, but it wasn't spoken about so much. But yeah, he's flashed back into the moments where he said to her, I think the last word he said to her, or the last thing he did, was smash her glass over some white roses, and then that's when she got in the car and I guess had the accident. So, you know, all this anger, it builds up to guilt, and he doesn't want it to get out of control. And I guess he kind of feels that that's another reason that he had to let go of Pax, because he was scared of his dad's anger or of the threat. That he didn't want to defy him, but after thinking about it, he was like, you know, this isn't right, this isn't loyal to Pax. It's definitely a strong theme and probably a very relatable one for a lot of people, so I think it was quite interesting that it was put into this book. So overall, for the themes, they're all really interesting and deep, and they were all delivered like wonderfully well. Definitely made you pause for thought, you know. So just again back to that that wholeness thing that Vola was talking about. I liked how she pretty much voiced Peter's anxious thoughts, gave it a term, made him feel comfortable with the phrase, with the feeling, and kind of just made him feel comfortable with this connection that he had quite clearly with Pax. Definitely must have strengthened his hopes and his determination to find Pax, and it was really nice to see. I just want to talk again just a bit about when the soldiers were making the bombs. Oh my god, I was getting so anxious when that was happening, because I knew something was going to happen, and it just made me more sad when Pax was describing that he could see there was a danger, but he didn't know what it was. You know, he could smell the metallic air. He knew it was going to be dangerous, and because he was with Grey, who had been injured by that other fox, he thought, I need to get him out of here, but he was still so weak, and I knew one of them was going to get really hurt. But when Grey walked out and he tripped, it broke my heart, because he was just such a feeble little thing, you know. Initially when he was first introduced, I thought, oh my god, he's gonna like beat up Pax, but he just welcomed him with open arms. So it was a heartbreaking moment when he died. That was horrible, absolutely horrible. I am left wondering though, what actually happened to Grey's mate? I don't remember anything else being mentioned about her after Pax went back to their little den. I don't know what happened to her after, because obviously since then Bristle and Runt followed Pax, didn't he? And I've just heard nothing. She had little babies in her stomach as well, and what happened to her? Does anybody know? Have I missed something? I'm not sure. At this point I didn't really know what to expect for the outcome, but I kind of had like 3 possible ideas kind of swaying in and out of my mind. The first one was that Pax dies. The second one was that Pax stays in the wild as an alpha, regardless of whether he reunites with Peter or not. And the third was that he reunites with Peter, they go home together, and maybe they'll bring Bristle and Runt and they can live nearby. But obviously that was more of my like fairy tale happy ending kind of scenario, and I knew that wasn't going to be the case, but I had to hope. When my second option was kind of unravelled in the story, so that he reunited with Peter, you know, but left to stay in the wild and whatnot, it was kind of like a bittersweet moment, because it was nice that he found his place in the wild where he belonged, but it was so sad that he had to break apart that connection with Peter, who'd looked after him his whole life. I steadied myself for that moment being chosen. I made myself kind of hard as steel, is that the saying? I don't really know, to kind of not get emotional about it, and surprisingly enough it worked too well. I thought I was gonna cry. I didn't cry. I wish I cried, because I wanted that emotional release, but I don't know, I'm still left now a bit bunged up with that emotion, because I am sad at this bittersweet moment of Pax leaving to stay in the wild and Peter just there like, oh, okay, I know it's good for you and whatnot, but it is what it is. Quickly, I want to talk about Bristle and her brother Runt. I felt that she was such an angry character. After getting to know her backstory further, you could see the devastations that she'd faced and that she was still facing in the story, so it was understandable, and I guess that kind of makes sense to why she was so extremely overprotective of her little brother Runt. You know, she'd lost so much and he was such a small little thing, you know, she needed to look after him, and the way she did it was to be angry at everybody, you know, don't touch him, he's my brother, stay away, you get back into that den, you know, so it was understandable, and I ended up quite liking her as a character. She was very interesting. Like I could definitely see her and Pax being like a little couple. So cute. So I'm just going to bounce back again to Vola, I can't say her name, and when Peter was staying with her. So it was such a almost surreal experience, because she did sound like a crazy lady just suddenly appear and sort of like lured him into the house, but it wasn't anything like that. She was, you know, punishing herself for the things that she did in war, and that was quite dark and deep, and all of a sudden, you know, it's just like, wow, she's doing this to kind of rectify herself in a way. She's living out this life away from civilization to try and, you know, punish herself, which was, I guess it was terrible, but it's what she wanted to do at the time. So I thought it was really amazing how, when you think about it, Peter was trying to bring her back into civilization, trying to make her a better person, you know, live her own life, be something amazing, rather than trying to live the life of the person that she killed in the war, because it wasn't going to help anybody, it wasn't going to, you know, make anything any better, so she might as well do something amazing with her life. At the same time, Vola was kind of teaching Peter to be more wild, to be more at one with his senses and with nature, so it was like a swap in roles. So just before I talk about my last little spoilery part, I just want to say that it was really sad when Peter threw the toy soldier. Again, you know, the thing that he used to do as a little game for Pax to fetch, both in the beginning and at the end, to kind of signify, you know, go, just go. It was really sad that that came full circle, because it was such, you know, in the happy times, the way it sounded, it was like such a fun game. You know, Pax's and Peter's favourite game to do, and it just, in the end, was so sad. It meant something. It meant a loss in a way, you know. Oh my gosh, this spoiler section has been all over the place. I've had like random thoughts like fly into my mind as I've been talking, so I've lost track quite a few times. Lastly, I just want to talk about how I loved that we got to see Peter's philosophy card, and in just the few words that he used, it showed how much he really learnt throughout this whole journey. But I'm still left wanting more, I really am, and I'm really wishing it was a happy ending for everyone. But with the war going on and the dangers of the wild, you know, I doubt that's going to be the case, sadly. But yeah, that's it for this spoiler section. I really enjoyed this book. It's up there, it's really up there, it's got to be up there in my favourites. I really did enjoy this. Something quite different from what I usually read, but I'm happy I read it, I really am. And I'll probably eventually get a physical copy of the book, because it's a beautiful story, and it's one that I'd love to read again, and I rarely do that, which is strange with the amount of books I have. I should really read through a few of them again. But yeah, let me know what you thought of Pax. You can tell me what you thought of this all over the place review. I do apologise for that. I just kept reminiscing to the book quite a lot of times, so I'm really sorry about that. I do hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think about the book, and I'll speak to you next time. Bye!